Users of Auckland's rail network can expect major disruptions over the next few years as a $330 million upgrade plan gets underway to prepare for the opening of the City Rail link. Kiwi Rail and Auckland Transport have just announced the plan that'll see entire sections of track across the city shut and rebuilt, some of which hasn't been renewed since the 1870s. Work will start early next year with parts of the southern and Onehunga lines shut for 3 months until late March, moving progressively through the network until 2025. Kiwi Rail says it understands disruption will frustrate commuters, but the upgrades need to be done.
When was it known that this level of work would need to be done?
We've known for some time. The issue has been putting together the business case to do so, and also getting the planning in place so we could say with some confidence how long it's going to take.
Why was it not flagged publicly earlier instead of drip feeding this?
Well, I don't think there's any drip feeding going on at all about this. This is the time to announce it. We've got time to run until the City Rail Links opens. This is the time to do it. I think if you go out early with these things, people will say, well, how long is it going to take? And if you can't answer that, then there's not much point coming out earlier. You've got to come out with facts.
And why was this work not done during the previous upgrades?
Well, this is difficult work, and it's different for the work we've done. Where we've done major rebuilds, it's been done. So this is across 35 kilometres of track in total, in bits and pieces. So we're only working in the areas where we have soft ground and other things like that. We've replaced rail on the top and replaced sleepers on the top, but we've not done a major dig out like this.
And can you just talk us through the basics of the work?
Okay. Well, I've sort of done the analogy. It's like doing up your house. At some point, you've got to do the foundations. You've got to sort of put a new water pipe in and all the rest of that. And you've still got the same house and all the rest. It's just basic stuff, infrastructure work that has to be done at some stage, and now is the right time to do it. Because the alternative is to wait until after City Rail Link opens, and I think that would be a much worse decision than doing it now.
How realistic is it that the bus replacements can adequately replace the significant line closures?
Well, it's definitely a challenge for us, given that we are currently dealing with a bus driver shortage. And we are taking steps, or making steps to ensure that we provide ourselves with the best opportunity to provide as much rail replacement bus services as possible. We're currently working through a procurement process to secure additional resources, and depending on how our response will come back from the industry, we will look at what other options we have in order to provide additional services from other operators who may not be currently contracted by Auckland Transport. But until we know exactly what's available in the market and what the bus operators are doing in terms of providing additional resources, we will wait and see, and by November, we should know exactly what bus replacement options would look.
Up to 250,000 Aucklanders a week are set to face massive disruptions to train travel due to a $330 million rail upgrade. But Auckland Transport says alternatives will be in place, and it's short-term pain for long-term gain. Business correspondent Katie Bradford reports.
The foundations of Auckland's rail lines, some nearly as old as the city itself. But now, line by line, kilometre by kilometre, the tracks and ground are to be ripped out and replaced.
It's the first time since the 1890s that this type of work has been done.
It's difficult and invasive work.
So it's a bit like doing up a house or something like that. At some point you've got to redo the foundations, and it's best to do it now before City Rail Link opens.
That's the good news. The bad news, it'll cause mass disruption to passengers.
It is going to be difficult for some.
After the usual closures over Christmas and New Year's, between January and March, there'll be no services departing Newmarket to Onehunga and Otahuhu. Then from March through December, no Eastern Line services. Commuter services between Pukekohe and Papakura remain closed until late 2024. And it doesn't end there. All other lines will be affected heading into 2024 and 2025.
It'll be a bit of a loss, really. but they've got to do the upgrades, and it's all going to be in the bigger picture.
It's really hard to catch the train already because they always delay all the time.
Auckland Transport is promising there will be bus replacement services across most affected rail lines, but the agency has copped criticism recently for poor communication and many cancelled services. In fact, 10% of all bus services recently have been cancelled. Are you confident there'll be enough buses?
It's definitely a challenge, but it is an opportunity to get to a rail network that will actually allow us finally to deliver reliable, safe and many train services in the future.
Other solutions, temporary bus lanes to speed up travel times, and the hunt is on for more drivers and operators.
And if that is not sufficient, we'll be looking at alternative options to look beyond the typical public transport operators.
They promise it'll be worth it in the long run.
People in New Zealand understand that if you don't invest in your infrastructure, at some point it breaks down, and the breakdown is worse.
Ensuring trains stay on track, but keeping Aucklanders on side a much bigger challenge. Katie Bradford, One News.
Major disruption is on the way for Auckland commuters as the city's rail network undergoes a major rebuild.
Train routes will be closed down for months at a time, and it'll be 2 years before the work is done. Kithiki Masalamini reports.
If you've got your commute to work all planned out, sorry, it's about to be derailed. The Auckland Rail Network is getting an upgrade, but according to Kiwi Rail, it's a necessary evil.
It's a bit like sort of doing up your house. At some stage you've just got to do the foundations, got to rewire, replumb and all the rest of that, and now it's time to do it.
From January to March, all services between Otahuhu, Onehunga and Newmarket stations will be affected. From March till December, the Eastern Line is out of action. The Southern Line from Pukekohe to Papakura will be closed to commuter service for almost a year until the end of 2024, and works will likely begin on the Western and Newmarket lines towards the end of 2024. The $330 million will go towards replacing the rock foundations underneath the tracks, some of which haven't been touched since the Auckland network was built in the 1870s.
The people who built the network originally built it well, but they didn't build it for 18-tonne axle locomotives.
The rebuild will be finished in time for the opening of Auckland's Central Rail Link, tentatively on track to finish by the end of 2024. Kiwi Rail will be digging up rock foundation, the ballast and formation layers and replacing it with stronger material. From January to March, 6,000 passenger trips a day will be disrupted, and Auckland Transport is looking at rail bus alternatives.
Probably the buses will not be the challenge. The biggest challenge is our bus drivers. We have a bit of a challenge with bus driver shortage currently.
Auckland Transport says it'll be a difficult logistical exercise for a couple of years.
Work is still underway to finalise the plans, and we will be in a position in November to communicate how the plan will actually look like.
But hoping a bit of short-term pain will yield a long-term train system, that is. Kithiki Masalamini, News Hub.